everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today, and welcome to Ethereal Encounters Unveiled. Of course, this is the place where you get to discover your own truth. Today, of course, we're broadcasting via all the social media networks, and down the road, we will also air this on United Public Radio Network and the UFO Paranormal Radio Network, which is 105.3 on the Gulf Coast and 107.7 FM in beautiful New Orleans. So please join us there if you can. We would greatly appreciate that. Today, we're so excited to welcome Kerrilynn Shellhorn. Kerrilynn, thank you so much for joining us today. Real quickly, Kerrilynn Shellhorn is a globally recognized generational psychic medium who utilizes her intuitive abilities to help her clients find healing and closure. She's also the author of Stepping Through the Door and Your Purposeful Life, and a much demanded Children of the Light affirmation cards. Is that correct, Sherilyn?
Yeah, Kerrilynn. So the affirmation cards, we sold out of those affirmation cards. So I need to update the website saying like they're not in stock currently, but they were they were highly in demand, and part of my coming out of the witchy closet when I started doing this work full time 18 years ago, the kids work. So I have always been this way, been able to connect and see and feel the other side from age 5 on. And when I had my children, they were having experiences at that age 2, 3, 4, the same as I did. So that's really when I stepped into doing this work full time. So it made it normal in our house, and gave that opportunity to connect with other families who had children that were intuitive as well too. So yeah.
Wow. How many children do you have?
4. I have 4 children. And you know what? They're not children. I mean, they're children, but they're adults. Right. They're adults now. So my oldest is 31 and my baby is 19.
Oh, wonderful. You look too young to have kids that old.
Well, thank you. I'll take that. Yeah, I'll take that. But yeah, my oldest, and I have a granddaughter that's 4. So she's a lot of fun now.
Oh yeah, I have one that's 7, and I get that. They're right? Great fun.
Yeah. It's life altering. Like when you become a grandparent, it's life altering.
It truly is. Yeah.
Yeah. Now she calls me Queenie. It's a lot of fun.
That's cute.
Yeah.
Mine calls me Pickle. So
Pickles?
I don't know why. She goes.
I love that. It reminds me of Rugrats.
I don't know why. I just thought it was adorable. So I call her Pickle. She calls me Pickle now, and that's just the way it is.
I think it's so fun, though, right? Especially when we don't resonate maybe with that older energy attached to the moniker grandma. Like I know that it's a privilege to be a grandma, but there's just sometimes we don't energetically feel in alignment with that.
That's so well said. I like that. So, Kerrilynn, about these cards, are you going to have them back in stock at some point?
So that's interesting. Potentially, they're going to be rejudged and updated. There's a lot of things that are kind of in the works right now. So, I want the artwork to come directly from me. So that's sort of what I've been working on. Secretly and not secret now. Yeah. is creating some cards and things, offerings using my own artwork. Yeah.
Now, of course, we'll have all your social media networks and your website, which is KerrilynShellhorn.com. And then, of course, we'll have your Facebook, your Instagram, and your YouTube channel in the description of this video. So, folks, if you want to track her down, that's the place to do it. Make sure you look in the description of this video and you'll find all of her information. Now, the ebook that you wrote, I think I saw you could download that for free. Am I right about that?
Yeah, that's correct. So the ebook was channeled out. It was all like automatic writing. It was channeled out. It was not fluffed up at all. How it channeled out is how you get it. And it's been that way again for like the last 18 years. So it channeled out over a 2-3 day period. And it really is very transparent. It's very authentic to my healing journey and what really kickstarted that spirituality process for me. And we give it out for free on the website, which is just kerrilynshellhorn.com. And there's also, if you email using the contact form on the website, there is a healing tools package that we give out to people for free as well too. I just find when I'm in a session with someone, there has to be more than just making that individual connection with their loved ones on the other side. There's a purpose to it. Where does the generational healing need to happen? Where did blocks happen within the family structure, and how can we help move people forward on the other side and here too, right? So being able to give people those tools in a short period of time, plus all the messages, just wasn't possible. So I may give them the basis of the tools during a session, and then we follow up. Actually, you get them before we do the session. When you book the session, my assistant sends you all of that stuff for free. So you have all of those tools accessible to you if you wanted to utilize them, if they resonate for you, and adding them to your tool belt if you're moving forward on your spiritual journey, right?
Well, that sounds like a very helpful thing for folks too.
Mm-hmm.
So you said you were, 5 when you started realizing your gift?
Correct.
What was that like for you? Like, just walk us through you being 5 and what that felt like.
Scary. It was scary and not scary at the same time, right? I was very fortunate to grow up beside my grandparents, and I grew up in Northern Ontario, Canada. My grandparents had this little tiny farmhouse, and my parents built a house beside them. So I slept at my grandparents' house practically every Friday from age 5 till like into high school. Well, it was older than high school, if I'm going to be really honest. I think I was like 21 and still wanting to sleep at my grandparents' house. But when I was young, I would see my great-grandfather at the top of the stairs, but I didn't necessarily realize that was who I was seeing at the top of the stairs. And you had to go to the top of the stairs to get to the bathroom. So I would sometimes avoid that, just walk back through the field to my house where I was growing up and then go back to visit. But yeah, I was seeing people in that house from age 5, and it was not necessarily something that was talked about or supported or understood necessarily as I got older. And for sure, when I had my own children and I had a community cable television show, we did some more research into my family structure and found that my great-grandfather that I was seeing during the time used to do tea leaf readings, and he would willow witch water for other farmers, and newspaper articles and all kinds of fun stuff about him. And what I found interesting about that was he was my German grandfather, and so my grandfather was German, and then his wife was Scottish, and so that it was coming from the German side and not necessarily the Scottish, where we have so much, more knowledge about, as far as their background and being intuitive and connected dimensionally, right? So I've always found it quite interesting that it's this male German side, not the female Scottish side. This information's coming from.
Usually it's the female side, the feminine side. Mm-hmm. That's interesting. So what else, aside from being able to see those that have passed, what other things, at 5, 6, 7 were you experiencing?
So our house was pretty tumultuous. It was not necessarily emotionally stable place. So for me, a lot of, I feel now looking back at it, right, and understanding that they were presenting in a way to help me know that I was not alone and that I was supported. So for me, there's a lot of dimensional stuff, fae, a lot of stuff with fairies, which I suppose comes in with the Scottish background as well too.
Mhm.
My siblings and I all had weird dimensional, for sure, ET experiences.
Wow.
I think that the Northern Ontario just is its own weirdness, right? Has everything going on and there's a lot of Indigenous land, 3 different reservations, all close to where I grew up as well too. So there's that layer to it. There's just a lot.
Yeah. So, was it scary for you? Like at that, were you ever scared or did you feel comfortable?
Comfortable. I mean, it was not, when I was seeing my great grandfather at the top of the stairs, I knew that like, I didn't run screaming. I just knew I didn't want to walk by him because I didn't know him. But I was 5, but it didn't feel aggressive or intimidating. And the same as the Fae. Like, there's very few times where I have felt scared by the stuff that I'm seeing. Even as a teenager, and as an adult, I think maybe twice now I've backed out, going, no, not. I don't think I want to deal with that today. But for the most part, no. Like, I don't know. There is a comfort to it. And maybe because I read so much, I was so immersed in books, and it was an escape. And there was a bit of comfort in those connections to the other side when life in our home felt so chaotic, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So, not only can you see those that have passed, but you've also had extraterrestrial experiences as well, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I
What
don't
was
have. Hmm.
You don't talk about that much?
Not much. No, a couple of times I have. I think it's something, where those memories have been repressed as well too. So a lot of it coming to the surface over the last year and a half. Thank you, UPRN, and all of the wonderful pokes and prods from our fellow hosts and our wonderful network owner, Joe Montaldo. There's been a lot sort of coming to the surface that I feel all of us, I had some aha moments, and I was texting my siblings going, do you remember this happening when we were kids? And my siblings going, yes. And did you remember this part? So between myself, my brother, my sister, we've been putting all those puzzle pieces together to some of the experiences that we had as a kid.
Oh, wow, that sounds like a positive. Yeah, it sounds like a positive thing to do, right?
Well, for sure, it helps you understand, and
Right.
and I've never been scared. I've never, yeah, I've just never been scared. And to me, I think the more that I've explored those sort of connections, the more it helps me understand why I felt isolated, or that homesick feel,
Right.
not quite like I belonged. Uh, yeah, and so there is a comfort with it.
When did you start doing, like, personal readings for folks? Like, how did that go over? What inspired you to start using your gift to help other people?
Sure, I think I got pushed into it. I feel it was what I was slotted to do, and I started off doing hair. Like, I was a hairstylist for quite a while, and
What was
then
that?
so were you? Yeah.
Yeah, years
I
ago.
think we're intuitive folks, right? And we connect with people, and there's a comfort level. I think it adds to what we end up doing later, right? So, uh, my kids, I think my oldest was 13 going on 14 at the time, and then my baby was just little, but they were really having a lot of experiences, and I just was so stuck and really kind of at the bottom of when we hit our lowest low, and I was sort of at that lowest low and trying to figure out what I needed to do for myself and my kids, and toss it up to the universe. I'm willing to do this, and this is what I need to do, or what I need in order to be okay with my kiddos, right? Because I was a single parent, and everything just sort of fell into place. I actually started with a online parenting radio show for parenting kids that were intuitive, and it was talking about the things I'm passionate about, and my kids were having experiences and talking about past lives. They were talking about heaven and what they remembered about heaven, and making agreements with each other, for being here. We were having these discussions with my kiddos at age 4 and 3.
Wow.
Like so coming out later when my oldest was 13, 14, and having the radio show, it just all fell into place. Like, it was just word of mouth. And I'll tell people too, like, when you get the nudge, when you ask the universe for something and you're getting the little breadcrumb and you trust and act on it, you're going to get more breadcrumbs.
Right.
So you just keep trusting and acting on it, and the more will come. And that's sort of what happened for me. I had people asking me, do you have a parenting course? And I lied. And I went, oh yeah, I do. But I didn't at the time. But I figured they're asking me, so there's something to that. So in my head, I'm like, okay, as soon as 6 people ask me about this, I'm going to put this program together, and we're going to make it run, and we're going to make it work. And it happened within a week, and I did it, and then I taught it for over 12 years. So
wow, that's wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
Truly meant to be. That's
it really all has. I feel very grateful and humbled daily that I get to do what I do. And I mean, it is work, but it comes to me. So I know that I'm being of service in the right way, that whoever they are on the other side for us, is wanting me to be, because it wouldn't flow in the way that it is if it wasn't what I was meant to do, right?
It's interesting because I read on your website, and you just used the word fae, like as in, I guess, fairies, right?
Yeah.
The only other time I think I ever spoke about them was with a gentleman from Scotland who was a pagan, and no, he was a druid. Excuse me, he was a druid. Very interesting man. I have that video on my YouTube channel if anybody's interested. I found it. I never spoke to a druid before, so it was really eye-opening. So what about these fae? Tell us a little bit about them. What do you do? See them? Talk to them? Like, how does that work?
Yes. How does that work? So it was in my head. I was always attracted to fairies, like from the time I was little. And like where I grew up, it was really the middle of nowhere. It was this little tiny school. The 1-room schoolhouse that my grandparents started was our gym. Like, it was really kind of in the middle of nowhere, and our library was down the hall. There wasn't a room. It was like bookshelves down the hallway for the rooms. And I always would take the same books out that were about fairies. Every time I would sign out the same books, so that connection or attraction, vibration was always there. So as I got older, and again, a lot after my kids, once my kids were born, they really pushed me, like, to really take accountability for who I was authentically, and really stepping into living that. And I feel so that they could have that safe place for themselves, right? To just be open intuitively and connected and aware. So I had an experience. The first experience, I was walking around our block and I saw them. I just saw them. It was these lights, and in the neighbor's garden, were these lights, and it was a remembering My daughter was asking to put tea and honey out for the fairies, out of the blue. So I'm like, okay. So we created these fairy gardens. And then I was driving, and I know that I've shared this, this story before. I was actually driving. I was driving down a main street that in the city where we live, and this female fae came right up in my face, and she said, "It's time to it's time to remember." And I can feel it going right into my heart space, but it felt like I was diving down inside a tree with her, and I went down inside this tree, and she gave me her name. And she said, "It's time for you to remember." And it felt like I was at home. So dimensionally at home, with this Fae family. And at the time we were doing a lot of work with animals. We were doing a lot of work outside, environmentally, right? Conservation, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, it was pretty powerful, because I started bawling my face off while I was driving. I had to pull over because it was such a weird experience.
Do
Yeah.
these look like Tinkerbell fairies that we
Nope.
grew up? No.
Well, and I've seen other things like that kind of look troll-like, that are more like 2 feet tall. This was small. It was elongated, kind of like if we were talking what we perceive ETs to look like. I mean, it very well could have been an ET, but it felt like fairy to me. So,
I'm fascinated by that.
but it was like going into a tree. We went into this tree, like I was driving, and then it was like boom, 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 like this thing happening, and I pulled over and I was crying, but it was like going into this tree, and it was like time to remember. And so I've just have this connection with them in a way that's very easy to flow ever since then. And that was quite a while ago too.
Yeah. So do they teach you different things than other? They do.
And it comes in waves, and it's not always necessarily what I need to be doing, but it's helping me when I'm in sessions with people. So what is going to help best this client? So it's showing me who my divine team is. And the divine team is, not this linear, it's angels and your ancestors. It is dimensional. It is way more. It is unicorns and dragons and fairies and ETs. And we have guides from dimensional places. And that's really how it was working with me, was that when I was in sessions with people who, like, whatever their path and purpose was and where healing needed to take place, those different guides would pop in and out. Nice.
Now, you talk about how important it is for you to have a sense of humor, and that you use that when you're working with your clients. Why is that? I thought that was so inspiring, because not everybody kind of connects those things together. So how does that work for you?
So I would say the humor comes out way more when I'm doing like the large public events, right? So when I'm doing the theater events or the events that are in restaurants or that sort of thing. So when that sense of humor really comes in. And then during sessions, the humor is there, but it's like having a conversation where you're bantering back and forth with someone. When we laugh, we are not holding our breath. When we laugh, we're fully relaxed, we're completely open-hearted, and it's easier for more information to come through, those ahas, plots of guidance from our loved ones on the other side, and it raises that vibrational level up. So when people are relaxed, it's pulling them up with me to go even deeper. So, and for me too, it's a little bit of self-preservation. It's a little bit of ADHD awkwardness. It's a little bit of like socially not knowing how to maneuver through certain situations. Like you don't know if you're supposed to lean in and hug somebody. So we're just going to pop off a zinger and we're all going to be okay. Yeah.
I can see where that would help you too. It would help you to relax and connect. Yeah.
Yeah.
So these events, you only do them locally in your area then? It's not like you travel to other states, right?
So prior to 2020, the world shifted. So prior to 2020, I had a lot of venues between 12 and 13. I was going from, you may not know Ontario very well, but between Sault Ste. Marie, which is 9 hours north from where I live,
Oh,
to
wow.
Kingston, which is, I don't know, 4, 5, something, I don't know, east of me. So in between those two spaces, I was traveling to all of those places on a 6-week rotation for years and years and years, and hitting other places in Ontario. But since things opened up in a different way, and turning 52 now, I don't want to drive as much anymore. I just don't want to. So
Okay.
kind of like choosing where I want to go and filling it up, um and wanting to be able to do other things too, right? So theater events, I'm open to doing the bigger theater events so people can come and see what events with me are all about. And I think that you need to shop around. Not all mediums work the same. Our intentions are not the same. The yeah, personality also matters, what you're looking for. So it just gives people an idea to be open to the concept of it and test me out, or be and decide if they want to work with me or if they want to find somebody else, right?
So how do you teach and help others gain trust and faith in their own intuitive gifts without the guilt, the judgment? Um, because I know I do that too. It's like the minute I tap in, I start, hearing that negative self-talk, trying to
Mhm.
talk me out of it or not listen to it.
Yeah.
Or I'll get thoughts like, this is sinful. You shouldn't be doing this,
Oh,
those kind of things. So how do you, because I am Catholic and I do, practice my faith. And while I don't believe in a lot of it still, because like if you look biblically, it says in the Bible that we're not supposed to be speaking to our loved ones that are passed, and it's
there's also
against.
a section in there where there's a female figure that was approached so that she could connect to the other side. So there is a section in there.
This is exactly what I'm talking about. It's so confusing because on one hand it says one thing, and then on
Mhm.
the other hand it says something else. It's very confusing for people. But how do you reach people and assure them that, because I'm sure there's a lot of folks that have these abilities and suppress them, right?
Mhm. Mhm. And
How does that work?
honestly, in the Catholic religion or a lot of religion, there's beautiful aspects to it. And and churches are beautiful. There's so many
Oh yeah.
beautiful churches that I love being inside of churches. There's that sense of community when you're in sitting inside, just the energy of it, right? So we're not knocking religion for
No.
starters, right? And I feel there's aspects that we still need to bring forward into the way that we want our belief system and how we work. And if that's part of your ancestry, bringing that forward in the way that you work is super important too, and honoring and healing within your family structure so you understand who you are in order to be clear. So trusting intuitive information. So energetic cord cutting, energetic clearing, energetic dumping of the garbage can of stuff that outdated belief systems, outdated patterns within the family structure, right? So however feels right for you is the first part. Um, and then just adopting the practice. I teach people, I talk about it all the time. If you start your day before you get out of bed and your feet hit the floor, grateful I had a bed to sleep in, grateful I woke up today, grateful that,
Gratitude, yeah.
grateful that I'm warm, grateful I have running water, grateful. So starting your day with gratitude, putting your hand over your heart and taking a full breath in. Breath work is so important. If you hold your breath, it's going to feel constrictive. and you can't receive that way. So having your hand over your heart helps you stay in your heart space, keeps you out of the chihuahua brain up here, right? That itty bitty shitey up here. So taking that full breath and really relaxing into it and asking, what does my spirit need today? And you may not hear anything, but trusting that it will play out throughout the day. But if you I pinky promise swear to people, you can use the contact form, Kerrilynn Shellhorn.com. You can use the contact form. It doesn't work, but try doing it for 2 weeks. And at the end of the 2 weeks, a month is better. But if you try doing it for 2 weeks, the answer starts coming before you are done asking the question. Go to the store, call this person, play, listen to music, cook this food, whatever. You get prompted. So your higher self knows what you need in order to be joyful and peaceful and grounded and centered. And the Chihuahua brain can knock us off kilter, but those answers, your intuition is always going to work in the first few seconds. And it's always going to be the loudest and truest response. If you pause and you wait, it's going to go up here. I just wanted to hear that. That's not really my voice. But if you practice doing that, you'll grow that confidence and clarity to what your intuitive voice sounds like. So you really, that little practice there is the groundwork for everything that I teach. How lean in. I just had this weird experience, hand over heart, take a deep breath in. Is this my stuff, spirit stuff, or my coworker who's having a shitty day? Like you can, and then just trust it and keep moving forward and letting go of the expectation of needing to know all of it. We don't get to know everything. We don't get to know the end outcome. We don't get to you're getting pushed to not go on your car trip today, to wait. So you wait, but then you're expecting that there's some big pile up or there was, a natural disaster or something happened, but nothing happened. So sometimes it is the universe just making sure you're going to listen.
That makes so much sense. What about, someone once had told me that we always have 2 demons and 2 angels on either side of us. I don't know how true that is, but do we have demons whispering in our ear trying
I hope
to
not.
What?
I hope not. Mine can't be very loud then. Mine can't be very loud then. I don't know. And then I feel bad because I feel like I'm shiting on somebody else's process, right? When I have not had that experience. I have not had that experience. I have not had the experience of knowing I have 2 angels and so many. I have this divine team that energetically each one feels different for me when I'm leaning in, but I know who I'm working with because energetically I know that vibe. I know that vibration because I've worked with them. It's no different than, your family members that you have your Thanksgiving dinners with. You have hugged them your whole life. You have, maybe they've brushed your hair. You've brushed their hair. We have these intimate connections and we know their vibes. So when you're in your, turkey coma on the couch and you're starting to fall asleep, you know who's walking up near you because you know their vibe. You just know that who this is that's coming into your space because that vibe you already know. So the more that you work with vibration, the more you're going to know who your divine team is. My concern in saying that we have 2 of these and 2 of these is that's fear-based to me. That to me, that's so fear-based. And then what are you creating if you're leaning into the fear? And I choose to not lean into the fear. I just choose not to lean into the fear.
I have to be honest, that freaked me out when this person.
Of course it would.
I was completely freaked. And he also said that those are the voices that we hear, like it could be anything from gossip, or self-negative talk or any of the bad stuff is these demons trying to get you to pay attention to them.
Maybe.
So what do you think that's just our ego doing that to us? Like, we raised on, depending on how we were, maybe we came from a family where there was a lot of negative self-talk. I mean, it could just, it doesn't have to be demons, right, Kerrilynn?
Exactly. Exactly. But it could be. I just have personally not run into that at this point in time.
Good.
And so for me, if we're talking about having had this as a full-time career for almost 18 years now, like in the spring, it will be 18 years. And when I first started, because I had no concept of recovering people pleaser, no concept of boundaries, I was having 6 to 8 clients a day, 6 days a week for years, thinking that I just need to be of service, and not realizing that I also needed to have, better boundaries. So that learning to speak my truth and learning to, thank you for giving me the opportunity to practice speaking my truth. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to say no. And that it was a practice, for me. I just feel that the stuff that feels lower energy for people don't always have to be scary. My paternal grandfather, so not my great grandfather, but my paternal grandfather, he was like a crotchety farmer German. He comes in and he can feel pretty intimidating when he comes in, but he's not. So if you have not worked on your own personal healing, you could be triggered, and then you hold your breath and you feel like this feels really, and he was a drinker at one point, so there's all of that energy attached to it. It could feel low where somebody's misinterpreting the energy that's coming in.
That makes so much sense. Have you ever, which I'm sure you have, had clients where their loved ones just didn't come through? No?
That sounded so arrogant, and that's not how I meant for that to spill out.
No, that's fine.
Yeah, no. For me, though, where I find I get frustrated in sessions, if someone's really wanting a particular person, and I get needing to vet out who is truthful and who is not truthful in doing this work. So for me, I have a very clear structure that I like with how I work. I say it's like getting a trailer to a movie. So I want to see who's coming in with the trailer, who's the highlight, who's that main event person, who's the extra people hanging out. And then I give a client, I have a structure. Show me how you died. Show me rows of children or siblings. How are you connected? Highlights, job, property, relationships, guidance. Are you hanging out with them? Where are you hanging out? Do you give them signs and symbols? What can they look for to be connected? And then I give the client the trailer that I've got. I've got these people. Does that feel like a good place to start? Is there somebody that you were most hoping for that hasn't come through? And then we go back in. So if there's somebody that they were hoping to connect with that hasn't come through in that trailer, it's kind of like standing at a train platform for me. And I go, okay, folks, you need to all move out of the way and let that person that's in behind you come forward. And then I ask them that whole thing. Can you show me how you died? Show me the evidential pieces so we know for sure that you are this person that they were hoping for, right? So I've just never had an experience where they've just not shown up.
Wow, that's good. That's good to know. And we're not disturbing them, right? When we do things like that.
No. The more that we can be peaceful, and the more we can be of service in doing our path and purpose. And our purpose is to share the gift of who we are with the world around us. So that's our purpose, to share the gift of who we are. And I think the learning our gifts is a lifelong process through the experiences that we have, and it brings them joy to be able to connect with us.
Nice. So for those of us that believe in reincarnation of the soul, how does that work if that person is already reincarnate in another life, and then we're talking to them in the life that we knew them? How does that work? Is their essence? Like, how does
Yes.
that?
It's like the soul qualities. It's like think Care Bears, right? Like Care Bears would shoot that energy out. So
Yes.
that person, that their soul is still here, and the essence of who they are is created into another one of them. To have a different experience, to have a different experience, to learn different lessons, all that sort of stuff. So you're still able to tap into this, but it's part of that collective consciousness within that soul family structure.
Nice. Is that like a
From my
dimension?
experience, that's what I've seen.
Yeah. Is that like a dimensional thing where?
I think so.
Yeah, right. It kind of sounds that way.
Yeah, I feel
That we're
so.
like tapping into that
Yeah.
dimension. So you're not really interfering in their process of reincarnating because that's what they're doing. And
Yeah.
that was weird. I felt like somebody kicked the back of my chair.
So that's
And
interesting.
it's not my dog because he's on my bed inside. I mean, that
So
was
that's
really weird. That never happened to me before. I have to
No,
like,
I love when stuff happens during. So before our session, before we started, the recording for this, I was using my tuning forks because anyway, I had a male figure that was coming through like crazy. So this male figure was pretty adamant. So whether he was your stuff or just hanging out, but he was like, yeah, hanging out. So maybe he was just wanting to give you a
it was
boost.
like a little push. I know
that.
I felt it because you saw me turn. It was so
Yeah.
freaky.
Love it.
Wow. Yeah. It wasn't aggressive or anything, just a
Nope.
little
Mhm.
nudge.
Mhm.
That kind of threw me off a little bit. I apologize. Okay.
But it's validating. So then it's really it is a dance that we learn to do with them. So okay, I get it. You're knocking my chair. I realize that you're here to hang out. You and me are gonna have a date at 8:00 tonight. So
I
you
like
cannot
that.
interrupt, you know what I mean? Like you just learn to have this dance. This isn't working. And a lot of times we are so busy in our lives that we miss the subtle ways that they're trying to connect.
Yes. And that was a question I wanted to ask you. Um, Signs and symbols and things. I struggle with that. Um, I never know if, like, some people say, oh, there's always this blue jay and it's always on my front porch. Like, my father passed away and for 2 weeks I saw this blue jay, just never saw it before. Like, I struggle with that. I can't my mind is always telling me, no, that's just a blue jay. It's not a sign, it's not a symbol. How do we know? Is it a feeling? Like, how does that work?
It is a feeling, and it's okay to left brain it. It's okay to go into your left brain and go, all righty, if this is you, I need you to do this just one more time.
Ah,
Just one more time. If you could do this for me just one more time, and then I will trust it. And they do that one more time. And then you need to not ask them to do the entertainment monkey dance. Thank you so much. This was awesome. And then you just keep saying thank you every time you see it happen, right? So the more that you say thank you and recognize it, the more they understand that it's working. Okay, now they
got
get it. And so we're just going to give them more of that. And it's okay to say, if I am missing these signs, I need this song to come on. I don't care if it's at the grocery store, if it's in the car, if it's on the elevator. I need this song to come on within the next 3 days. So I know that you're hearing me and we're good. I think people don't ask because they don't want to be pushy or they think that it needs to sound poetic. But you can use salty words and they'll listen.
Not that I want to be Debbie Downer here, but I talk to a lot of different people and they say a lot of different things. And I pick and choose like everybody else what I want my truth to be. Somebody had said to me, be careful what you ask them for because other things can, like if you say hypothetically, give me a sign and you're asking out, outright, that other not so nice forces can do some trickery and make you think it's them. And I worry about stuff like that when I hear it, and it kind of dissuades
Well,
me
yeah.
wanting to, you know what I mean? I don't
Well,
want to pull in negative in.
it's clearly shaped your experience because you're not having the signs and symbols in the way that you are most
Right.
wanting to. So it has shaped your experience.
Yeah.
I maybe it's Pollyanna. I don't know. I just know that I have my divine team who protect me. I trust that my divine team is there to protect me. I trust that I am working from that higher place of yeah, love and light. Though that phrase makes me
Yeah,
stink
no, I
like, but I just don't I try not to feed into fear. So if you are asking, you want grandma on mom's side, okay, grandma, I need you to show me this in this way, and thank you very much. It again, it's a vibe that it's a vibe that is comfortable for you. It's a place. So if it's meaningful, specific to you, then you roll with it. And
so a lot of it's intention. And I get,
100%.
I totally get that. So, like, you could have the most beautiful, pure intention and then still worry about disturbing them. Or that's why I wanted to clarify this with
Mhm.
you, having the ultimate respect for you and what you do, because so many of us want to communicate and want to see signs and symbols. But like I said before, that fear, that negative self-talk is kind of preventing, even with the best intention.
Right.
Bless you.
Oh, sorry. So sorry. Um, so I just don't lean into fear. I don't
Yeah.
know if it is, again, I don't know if it's just the Pollyanna in me or if I have a little bit of a sort of attitude about it. Like I just don't feed into the fear a whole lot. Um, I, I know that the disconnect can happen even for someone who's doing the work full time. I had a number of people pass away this fall, and I've only connected in a little bit on my own and felt them. And when I started to cry, then they pulled back. So I was having to say, "It's okay, pull up. I'm only going to cry for a minute, and we're good." And I need to cry. It's okay for me to cry. It's going to help me process. So sometimes those signs and symbols aren't coming because there's healing that you need to do, or the grief is so thick that it has created its own block. Counseling, therapy, grief counseling, those things help. Try writing them a letter. I'm not a very good journaler, never have been, but I love writing letters. So writing letters to them, and writing letters to them initiates a contact as well too, right? um, Asking them for signs and symbols. Let me just, it's interesting that we're having this conversation. Like I said, I just finished teaching this class, so I wrote a grief toolbox down. Do we have a second for that?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
You have plenty of seconds.
I
was
also,
just going to ask you about this topic too. So I'm so happy that you're talking about.
yeah, EFT, emotional freedom technique, finding somebody that does tapping, it really helps as well too. When our left brain, right brain are kind of all muddled up. So I've even talked about like crisscross applesauce when you're a kid. So crossing your arms and not tapping, it's helping recenter and balance. Moving when we are in grief, we can have a slippery slope with our mental health as well too if we're not proactive with it, and get stuck into habits that are not healthy for us. So movement. Energy needs to move. Energy is movement. So getting out and walking, baking, going for a hike, walking a dog, something, going for a swim. We have to move. So setting your intention before you start that movement,
Mm.
that you would like a plop or an aha, a sign, a symbol, and then just letting it go. What else did it, how am I, oh, you know what else helps too is, I mean, it just fuels our spirit at the same time too, but it does help us connect with spirit, is turning your face up to the sun. Like standing outside, you know, and it's like, it's a feel, and it just feels good. You know, when you open up your windows and the sun's beaming in, we kind of all want to do
Oh, I
that little,
love that.
yeah. So it's raising your vibrational level when you do that. Turning music on and moving around while you're cleaning. When you move into a non-thinking mode, when you're non-thinking, that's leaving a door open for those loved ones to give you that plop of guidance that shows up out of nowhere. Being open-minded to how that information is going to come in too. You could be standing in line at the bank. So you're in queue at the bank and you hear somebody saying the same phrase that your dad used to say all the time, and you never,
Oh,
but
yes.
now I'm hearing it. So they will use a third party to make sure that you have a memory triggered or an emotion triggered. And sometimes it's jarring, but it's beautiful, right? Because it's putting you into that connection space with them. So being
Oh, I
open
love that.
that the sign and symbol can come in so many different ways. I had so that happened to me recently. So a friend had passed away, and he's joker teaser, outgoing comedian. He literally comedian, and he would always text me and say, "You're the best, kiddo." And I was out, and I heard somebody say that phrase, "You're the best, kiddo," and I instant snotty ugly cry, but it was good because I had been waiting for him to come through. And I know that my grief and anger and frustration with his passing was creating my own block. So hearing
Oh, I
that
love
you're the best, kiddo, was exactly what I needed. News feeds, you know, people may want the butterfly and the dragonfly, but on your social media feed something comes up with a prayer or a poem. That's also a sign or symbol. You walk into a store and there's like a whole row of freaking pillows that are all butterflies. When you've been,
Oh.
you know, like, be open that it could come in so many different ways.
Now, Kerrilynn, do you teach these classes via like Zoom, or
Yeah.
how does this work for folks that are interested and want to reach out to you? How does it work?
So I'm getting much better about putting things on the website. So the website is the best place. You can sign up for the newsletter. On the newsletter that I send out, I am too neurodivergent and all over the place to send you more than one email in a month. So you will only get the newsletter once and no other contact email from me. The newsletter has the upcoming events, upcoming workshops. There's special things in the newsletter that I don't offer other places. So currently the newsletter has an offering that I don't have on the website. Like, there's perks in being part of all these other things, right? Yeah, and then we do it through Google. Tonight is the last night of a 5-week meditation course. I did the signs and symbols coming to the other side. I'm having an otherworldly Who's Your Bob class. So
Ooh.
the Who's Your Bob class, I used to tell everybody that their spirit guide's name was Bob. Everybody's guide's name is Bob because Bob don't care. So so to me, if I tell you what your spirit guide's name is, how are you really going to build that connection up on your own? Like, figuring it out on your own and having those tools to make it your practice and you lean in a way. So, again, people are so very focused on that it's needing to be a loved one, an angel, this ascended master. So I wanted to focus on our spirit guides that are otherworldly, unicorns, dragons, fae,
Oh, wow.
ETs. So that course is going to be in February. So that is on the website, and
Oh,
we
I
do
have
it
to sign
through.
up for that.
Yeah, we do it through Google Meet, and then I send everybody a link to the recording, and then you have a recording that you can access for a week after. So even if you can't access that night, you can watch the recording. I tend to give. Everyone tells me the courses are like 3 master classes in one, because I give so much information because I want everybody to have these positive experiences. So there's always lots of information, and I'm pretty accessible.
Can our pets that have passed away be our spirit guide as well?
Mm-hmm. Well, part of our guides for sure, and I mean there are guides when they're here. They
Absolutely.
they are definitely, trying to help us remember aspects of who we are and be a part of our healing journey here. So they definitely come through as well too during sessions. The
That's great.
pets always come through.
Now,
It weeds me out, honestly. It's not my favorite part. But I love animals. Like, I am an animal lover, but animals touch me when I'm working, and like dead folks don't. Spirits don't touch me, but animals touch me in spirit, and it
oh,
wigs me
wow.
out. No.
You mean like they'll brush up against you or?
Oh yeah, jump up on my lap, breathe
Oh,
down my back.
no.
Like I will, yeah, and you'll just physically know, like your chair being, kicked.
Yeah.
Your chair being kicked. It's a real physical thing, and I will have a small dog, or usually cats will do that figure 8 around the bottom of my legs.
Yeah.
Dogs will bump up against me. Small dogs jump up on my lap. It just depends on the type of animal that it is that's coming
So that
through.
freaks you out.
Freaks me out every time. Oh my God, you're a cat person. I love cats. I'm sorry to freak out.
Oh, that's funny. I mean, I love cats, but I'm allergic to them, so I never could own any. But dogs, dogs are like my thing. So,
Yeah.
but that's good to know that they could be part of your spiritual team there.
Mm-hmm.
Animals, right?
Well,
That's comforting.
all of it is. I mean, unfortunately, if we have that experience where we have hit a deer, or we've run over a squirrel, like
Yeah.
they're horrible experiences, right? Hurts our
Oh,
soul
oh,
when we have that, when we are an animal lover. At the same time, that animal is part of your divine team still. It is
oh,
giving you a message, or is a messenger. Is giving you a message in that moment. So finding the gratitude in why they were stopping you in that moment to give you, what are you needing to hear from that animal in that moment, that's going to help you on your journey, right?
and I'll tell you that was one of the main reasons I started eating so much less meat, because I always felt that. I think it was Cahill Gibran. I was like addicted to reading. I'm probably pronouncing his name incorrectly, but I mean, great poet, Cahill Gibran. He had said that, like, before you eat meat, you should always say a prayer and be grateful and say, this animal sacrificed itself so that I may live. And that really hit me hard. Like, one time I hit a squirrel and I was traumatized for days,
Mm-hmm.
days, because I knew I killed it. And
Mm-hmm.
that can really wreck your soul for a while there.
Mm-hmm.
It, of course, the thing just darts out in front of you while you're driving, like,
Yeah. But so why did it dart out right in front of you?
right.
Why did it dart right out in front of you and not give you that moment? So not getting caught up in guilt. So, where else do you hang on to guilt? Where else are you hanging on to respond, like guilt attached to things that aren't your burden to carry, right? So there's other aspects and ways of looking at those situations. And
Gosh, that's such a great
the same with
topic.
meat. Same with meat.
Yeah.
Like having grown up on a farm and around farmers, right? So I know how they were raised and loved, and if we believe that we all have a conscious choice, and they are aware of what their choice is as well too. It's just another way of looking at it as well too. So being mindful of where you are purchasing your meat from matters.
Yes.
That matters as well. That matters as well too. And I think that I struggle, and I know this is, you can email me and we can have conversations about it, anybody that may be ruffled about it, but we're talking about plants having consciousness
Yes.
as well too. So then are you going to not eat the carrots
Right.
either?
Right.
Like,
Right.
if we're all interconnected, we're all playing a role. Do we all know the role that we're playing when we choose to come to this planet? Because in this planet, this is what these bodies are needing in order to thrive. And though, I mean, we have sensitivities, it's just a conversation. I tend to poke a lot of questions because I'm a seeker too, right?
Absolutely. It's so true about the plants, because I had this one orchid plant that I must have had for 8 years, and it would not bloom. It just would not bloom. It was healthy, green, it was nice, it just wouldn't bloom. So I started talking to it and just saying, "Gosh, you're so beautiful. Your flowers are so," and just doing that. And I if you go on my Facebook page, I have pictures of it in bloom. They're stunning flowers that bloomed.
Wow, eh?
So, like, you're right about the vegetable thing,
Yeah.
what are
What
you
was
gonna
the
do?
fellow's name? Was it Emoto? Who did the
Oh,
water?
the water guy?
Mm,
Yeah, where if you talk to the water and freeze it, and you talk lovingly, it makes
yeah,
beautiful crystals like snowflake, and if you use hateful words, it's like ugly shapes. Yeah, I think it was Emoto, Dr. Emoto.
yeah.
People that up, that's
So
so true.
animals, people, plants, I think we're all, and again, because we're all interconnected, right? Like,
Absolutely.
and I
And
know it horrifies people, but I'll if I do a full thing of sessions or a really big event, I will eat a Baconator from Wendy's with no guilt.
I love that.
Because
God needs it.
yeah, I mean, I can't even eat a full one anymore because definitely things have changed for me, but there's something in that that just pulls me down really quick. And I realize that there's other ways of grounding, and I understand all of that, but sometimes just that one bite even is enough that pulls me
Oh,
down
sure. Well,
where
look at all the energy that you're giving,
Mhm.
when you do these readings. I mean, even these interviews,
Yeah.
they're tapping into your spirit and draining to a certain degree. So,
Mhm.
your clients online, when
Mhm.
they want readings, how
Mhm.
does that? Because I had somebody ask me, well, if you're not in the same room with that person, how can they read your energy? Like, explain
Mm.
how that works.
Well, because they're dimensionally somewhere else. Like, you don't need to be in my physical space. So the best example that I have of that, uh, again, I know that you may not know our geography in Ontario very well. So I was working in Espanola, Ontario. Espanola is like 5 hours ish, I think, north of where I live. And I was going to be leaving that day to come back to Guelph, Ontario, where I live. And it was early November. It was snowing, so I was going to be driving into snow. I was going to be driving in snow at the dark time, and I was super angsty. So I had that one last session that I needed to do, and my friend brought the people in. It was two ladies. They came in. I didn't even introduce. It was horrifying when I thought about it after. I didn't introduce myself. I didn't even ask them their name because I was so focused that I needed to get this done as fast as possible so that I could get on the road, because I knew that I had this long drive in freaking snow in Ontario. So anyway, I didn't ask them their name or anything. I just started shooting off. Boop, 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 boop. You have your female figure coming in. This is how she's connected. She's showing me all of these issues. She got this going on, blah, 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 blah. And I hope that's okay. And thank you very much. And then we finished, and I had to pull over on the ride home to put windshield washer fluid in because I hit really sloppy weather and I couldn't see. And then it dawned on me when I'm underneath the hood putting this windshield washer fluid in, realizing I hadn't even introduced myself. I hadn't asked them their name. It works the same as on the telephone or on Google. And sometimes on the telephone, it's even better because you're not seeing people's face. You're not seeing you just get to hammer out that information really quick because it's dimensional. They're in that layer that's just right over top of us. And they know to show up or they should know to show up because you've talked about it, thought about it, wrote about it. You've
so you put your intention out there before even speaking with you. Oh, wow. Yeah. I never thought about that.
And most times, people in spirit will show up at my house before a session. They'll show up in the morning. They'll show up, pretty sure they're loud right before a session. We don't need to be in person I think that's a control issue for a client. Sorry, client. Right. Or not understanding or a trust issue. But if you've vetted out the person that you're going to, you shouldn't be in a not trust place.
Right. You should have established that already.
And choosing somebody matters too. If you are asking people who would you go to, you need to ask more than just who would you recommend. There has to be more questions than that. Why did you want the session? What was the session for healing? Was the session for spiritual understanding? Was the session for just connecting with the other side? Not just, that sounds dismissive. So was it about ensuring that your loved ones were okay? If they weren't okay, was that person that you chose, do they have the skill set to help them on the other side? Really asking more questions, because your intention could be when am I going to have a boyfriend? And somebody else's intention is, I didn't get to see my mom and she was so scared to die and I wasn't there when she died. Is she okay? Is she mad? Is there anything I need to do for her? Those are two very different intentions.
So. Did you ever have a situation where you were reaching out to someone's loved one and they say it was a bad relationship, whether a parent and a child? Yeah. How is it for them in the afterlife? Are they all about making amends, apologizing, or do you get some that still hold their anger?
No. So I would say the bulk of my sessions are like that. The bulk of my sessions are where healing is needing to take place. The people that come through in spirit, regardless of their thoughts, words, deeds, and actions here, all show me the same process, that they watch their life review. So every thought, word, deed, or action, harmful or hurtful, subconsciously or consciously, they feel the pain that they inflicted. So then they see it again, their life review. How would life have been different if they had made different choices? And how did their choices affect the collective for that whole soul family? So within that soul family, it's where the generational traumas are going to hit, or patterns and belief systems that aren't working for people. So there's always accountability. The odd time I have had somebody come through in spirit where they hadn't quite finished their full life review. So their apology was not really saying, I'm sorry, please forgive me. But then the follow-up session, they had finished, and then it was very different, right? So for me, if there's a lot of, I never have people that are stuck and not crossed over. I think twice in all of my years, I've only had people that have not fully crossed over twice, where they've needed help going over. And it sounds like the teacher from Charlie Brown, and it feels like we're slogging through mud. Like it just is, it's not flowing fast and easy. And then being open to do what we need to do, right? In helping them with their healing and fully crossing them over. And then the session can get where it's needing to go.
Why do you think it is that, like, especially watching these paranormal TV shows, you always see them about the person is stuck and can't cross over, and then this psychic helps them cross over? It's like inundated with those types of stories. And yet, in your experience, you didn't have many of them.
Nope. Because they need ratings. They need ratings.
Makes for a good story.
I feel like I'm stepping in a big pile of poo. But so, I mean, that's one thing that I was super grateful for with the show that I had, or for the shows that I have seen that are through local cable programming, is there's no pressure and no stress in having a fixed agenda or a narrative that needs to be followed in order to have ratings, because they're not money earners, right? Like, you know, it's right. So
a lot of these shows make us fearful of looking for the signs and symbols too, because we're seeing all this, you know, how a ghost destroyed my life and all these shows. And, you know, that's why I just don't watch them anymore, because, you know, I mean, in the beginning, it's fun for a jump scare, you know, but I try not to watch them now, because I've experienced that as a negative voice in my head saying, don't look for signs, don't look for symbols, because instead of putting the good intention out there, you're putting negative intention out there.
Yeah. I feel some of the shows and where they started, like a long time ago, 20 years ago, where they started and how it's evolved has shifted. And I think that has shifted through media platforms as well too. There is a shift with intention, but it's not all. There are some streaming platforms where it is still heart-centered with an intention to help people and educate in the right way.
That's why I love United Public Radio, because that's exactly what they're about, you know, largely.
Yeah, and again, there's more out there as well too. So I find it just if it's not resonating for you, then you look the other way, and you'll find it eventually, right? But the paranormal field has gotten pretty muddy for sure.
Yeah, and I think you're right. A lot of it has to do with, you know, they want the clicks, they want the ratings and stuff like that. So, but it's understandable. So what are you working on?
Sorry to interrupt you. I just, sitting on the fence too, I think maybe, you know, is there a possibility that those sorts of locations or people didn't feel as comfortable talking about those lower energies? I there's so many to it. So, you know, maybe they feel more free to ask for help now because it is more out in the public. I just have not been exposed to a lot that way. My exposure to a lot of stuff that feels lower, where there's potentially like heavy activity, has come more from telekinesis and the person being sensitive and intuitive themselves and having had trauma that with not a lot of therapy and support. So that energy is creating their own poltergeist experiences within their home. Not saying that there aren't demons, not saying that those aren't truthful experience. I've just not had that experience, and don't know many people that have had that experience. I know that it happens, but
yeah. What about you, for folks that want to use tools like spirit boards and crystals and things like that? Do they need to like approach that very carefully? What's your overall advice about that whole thing?
But even an app on your phone that's tapping into the other side, even a voice recorder, like a recorder that you're using. If your intention is to tap in to the other side, then make sure that you know how to open properly how to protect yourself, and how to close it properly. So opening and closing, and sometimes seasoned people can be duped as well
Mhm.
too. So it's always being, I personally, I hammer it home all the time: personal accountability with your own healing journey. So don't be working when you are having an off day. It's okay for you to say this is an off day, or your own personal. So where you are at is also going to matter in what comes through and how it comes through. So finding the right teacher and understanding how to open a situation, or how to start it, what your intention is for doing it, be very clear, and then closing it when you're done. Stating, like, I'm done, we're done, you stay, I'm going.
Right, right.
My divine team is going to, sever any energy between us, so there's no entanglement that way. And yeah, having a very clear, but also looking at what your heritage is. What is your heritage, and what would your ancestors have believed in, and
Mm.
utilizing any rituals or um, routines, structures, way of doing things from how your background is.
Yeah, yeah. That's
Important.
so interesting because I had an Irish grandmother who was born in
Mm.
Ireland. She was she used to freak me out as a kid because she was always telling me these Irish fairy tales
Yeah,
and stories
and the
about
fairy weren't nice either. Trickster, troublemakers.
she would freak me right out
Yeah,
telling me all
and they
these stories.
can.
Yeah, I mean, I'm grateful now because I learned so much through her.
Yeah,
But, as a little kid, it could be kinda scary, but that's interesting. Look at your background,
yeah,
the history of your family and
yeah. It's important. I mean, my granddaughter is 4, and she, um, you know, uses teacups. We have her, holding a teacup and looking at symbols. What do you see in your cup? And
oh,
we're
that's so
you
awesome.
Mhm. But I mean, I'm with her and holding this space as well too, right? But
Well, of course, of course. Well, your whole family I is gifted in that respect, right? Both
yeah,
your parents were too?
no,
Oh,
no.
just your dad. Just on your dad's
Well, I
side?
don't really know if my dad had experiences, but I know his sister did, or does. I don't really. I know that I know that his dad, so my grandfather, used to talk about, respecting the land, respecting nature,
Yes.
our connection to all of that. And then it was his father, so my great grandfather, who used to do all of that tea leaf reading and kind of stuff. So I don't know why it wasn't talked about more when I was little and having experiences. I don't know. I just know that when I got the cable program at the time, I called all my family. I was like, "Hey, so when we weren't talking about this, now everybody's gonna know." like, like it's
In Canada, you had this cable program, was it aired what was the
yeah.
name of it? Like, tell us about that.
It was called Extraordinary Connections through Rogers. So it was I was really grateful for it. It was a great program. It was really honoring and respectful of the way that I worked, and um, definitely got my name out there locally.
Oh, could
Mhm.
we watch
Yeah,
reruns of that?
it's on YouTube. I have, you know, Wade Leston had red hair, but it's still me. You'll know the laugh. So it's Extraordinary Connections through Rogers, and it was a lot of fun.
Through Rogers.
Yeah, Rogers Cable. So it's Rogers.
Oh, gotcha, gotcha. Yeah, we're gonna have to go check that out. So
Mhm.
what are you working on now, Kerrilynn? What's your plans moving forward? Do you have any great aspirations that you've yet wished to attain or on the journey to doing? What's happening? Are you just content doing what you're doing? Like,
So that's such a hard, like it's a kind of a hard content. So I'm definitely neurodivergent, right? So I don't like things to stay the same I like when things switch up, so I don't
Mhm.
feel like I'm in a rut. I will even drive to the same location, but I'll drive 4 different ways so that I don't feel like I'm in
Oh,
this routine, right? So, um, it's interesting that we're having this today. Thank you so much for asking me to be on today
oh,
because this is so divine synchronicities that are happening.
absolutely.
I had an aha moment this morning about my next steps and what I'm wanting to do and offering
Oh,
people. So, watch on social media. I know that I would really like to take the Love Life Afterlife event that I do at theaters outside of Ontario. I would really like to work on the East Coast. I would love to make that happen at some point. So I think I just need to bite the bullet and put it on the calendar, right? So
yeah. Oh gosh, I hope you come to the States.
yeah, so working in the States is different, right? Like I can, yeah, that's a whole other ball game working in the States, but um yeah, I'm open to that.
Is it a lot of red tape for you to like?
Yeah. It is. It's quite a bit. It's quite a bit. And so like I know that I've gone down into the States and we've just used it as a networking, right? And I'm okay with that. Like I'm okay about going down and just doing my thing so people can see and then we connect at another point in time if that's
Absolutely, absolutely. It's funny. I remember going to Canada. I went there twice, Toronto and Montreal. Gorgeous,
mm,
fell in love with the place. And we just drove there. Like you just go through this little border passage. You don't have to go through any crazy stuff.
yeah.
We're connected, so you just drive through. Now it's
So
like
I
a
grew
night.
up yeah, I grew up outside of Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario, which borders Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan. And so growing up, it was always back and forth. It
Oh
was it
yeah.
was just no problem. And my grandmothers, I would go with my grandmothers, and my grandmothers always called it crossing the ditch. We're crossing
Oh,
the ditch today. So we would go into Michigan all the time, into Michigan all the time. Ponderosa. We'd have to go to Ponderosa for lunch.
of course. So
As you do.
now to do that, you have to have a passport and God knows what else. But yeah, it's crazy, and we're like we're connected, like we're
Mhm.
neighbors, but we're connected. Our countries, so it's like
Yeah, my
it makes
oldest
sense.
son my oldest son was born on July 4th, so
Oh,
I would take him to the ditch, but we could watch the fireworks, right? "Look at what they're doing for you, dude. They love you as much as I do. They've got fireworks for you."
that's right, that's right. Fireworks on your birthday. That's
Yeah.
cute, cute. Oh, I gotta
Now
tell
he's
you,
31.
funny birthday story. When I was pregnant with my son, my due date was October 1st. So I was like, okay. And I was in this kind of occulty bookstore in Lower Manhattan. And I'm just me and my husband, we're poking around looking at books. And this woman walked over to me and she just put her hand on my belly and she said, "You are going to have this boy on Halloween, and he's going to be very gifted and special." And I said, "No, no, no, no. My due date is October 1st." She's like, "No, no, no. You're going to have him on Halloween." And I had him on Halloween.
Get out, eh?
Isn't that freaky? And he is
That's a
gifted.
that's awesome. But
Oh,
how could the doctors have mucked up that due date? Like, 'cause that's a long overdue.
it's awful. It's awful. Not only did I look like an elephant, but it was very dangerous for me because my doctor went on vacation the last 2 weeks and never told me.
Oh my Lanta.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So, but she knew. She knew.
Wow.
Crazy how she knew.
So I mean, that's a cool story, but it feels also intrusive at the same time.
I know.
What if you didn't want to know?
She just walked over and put her hand on my stomach, and I'm like looking at her. And people do that. Well, they used to, not anymore. But like you see somebody, pregnant, and you're like, "Oh, can I touch the belly?" People don't do that anymore, but they used to back in the
Mhm.
day.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, cute though. But I want to thank you so much, Kerrilynn.
Oh, it's a
We're
pleasure.
approaching the hour and a half mark, and I'm so grateful to be able to be in the same space, virtual space as you. I thank you so much. I hope we can do this again someday because I still have so many questions, and I'm definitely going to be joining one of your seminars on your website. And again,
Okay.
folks, I'll have all that information in the description of this video. So be sure to check out her website and stick around when we are done recording because I'd like to just speak with you briefly. But thank you again so much. It was truly an honor and a blessing.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'd love to come back.
Thank you so much. I'll be in touch soon.